I would now like to welcome our next speaker, Ashutosh Pandey. He's a compiler engineer at AMD and one of the co-organizers at LLVM Social Bangalore, a large gathering of compiler enthusiasts, which is now over 1900 members strong. What started as a local user group has now turned into a global community which connects academics, industry experts, students, and enthusiasts in compiler engineering. Please give him a warm welcome. And
Hi. So, a small quick show of hands. How many of you are involved in some or the other community on a regular basis, community or meetup? How many of you have heard of the LLVM compiler infrastructure? Okay, that's quite a few. That's nice. So, I'm going to be giving this talk about scaling this community to 1900 members and beyond, what we did, and my take on how we should scale communities. But since I'm here at IndiaFOSS telling people how to run a community, I have to establish a little bit of credibility. So I do tech. I'm a compiler engineer at AMD. I work on compilers. Previously, before graduating in 2021, I did Google Summer of Code with Arduino. I worked with the Linux Foundation on a glibc project. I interned at the Free Software Foundation and at Element 14. On the community side, I've been co-organizing LLVM Social Bangalore since 2022. LLVM Bangalore itself has existed for longer than that. And I've been a part of some other community initiatives as a student. So that's it. So what even is LLVM, right? So if you've never heard of this thing, so LLVM is a modular open source compiler infrastructure that can take a front end for any language and support a back end for any instruction set architecture. So in simple words, let's say you want your C code to run on on an Intel computer or on a Mac or a Raspberry Pi. So ordinarily you would have to write 3 whole different compilers to do this, and for every set of languages you have to support, you would have to go like n cross n for all the back end infrastructures. So LLVM has a common middle end optimizer. So all you need to do is target LLVM. You write the front end of your language, and instead of the compiler emitting assembly as it normally would, it emits LLVM, and then LLVM takes over from there. So it supports C, C++, Go, Rust. It's one of the most common compiler infrastructures in the world today. If I had to put it in simple terms, LLVM is more like, if a web equivalent were to be taken, it's like the entire MERN stack rather than just being one thing. You can use LLVM to create debuggers, linters, code formatters, and a lot of other things. So what do compiler engineers even do? We work on optimizations, squeezing out that last bit of performance from computers. We implement new features. So whenever programming languages come out with new standards, the standards committee is not the people who are actually implementing the feature. That's us. Then there's verification. I mean, I'm sure all of you write code, but whenever your code breaks, your first instinct is not to blame the compiler. You rather blame your code, that my code must be wrong. So that means compilers have to be right most of the time, right? They can't be wrong very often. So verification and validation is a huge part of compiler engineering. And finally, there's the exciting bit, that is research. So new tools, like recently Meta came out with a tool called Bolt, LLVM Bolt. So it can optimize binaries. So you don't even need to give it source code. You can give it a binary and it can tell you how to make that binary go faster. So new tools, techniques, processes. So it's a sort of a unique field where, academia and industry work together. So for the outsiders, this is some of the tech powered by the LLVM project. Everything from the Swift programming language to the Android NDK, Julia, Unity, Photoshop, Polymage, TensorFlow, PyTorch, JAX, Postgres. All of them use LLVM in some form or the other. So what is LLVM Social Bangalore then? It is a community. It's a compiler-based community. It was started by 2 engineers, Aditya Kumar and Rishabh Sharma, in 2019. So Aditya left for the US. He's in Google there. And Rishabh is pursuing a PhD. So now we've taken over. So the goal of this community is to build a strong compiler community in India. We organize meetups every month, although that's not all we do, but that's the main thing. We welcome professionals, academicians, and students alike. So in a group, you'll find professors, you'll find engineers, you'll find hobbyists, hackers, students, all sorts of people. So currently, it's run by 4 of us: Pradeep, Prerna, myself, and also with Aditya chipping in from time to time. So really, I speak for all of them here. So for an example of the kind of talks we have, here are some of them. So it's like we had a talk on enabling optimizations in JIT compilers recently by Dr. Manas Thakur from IIT Bombay. We had a talk on hot path SSA form in LLVM from Sumit Lahiri, who is a PhD student at IIT Kanpur. We had a talk on Build It, which is used to create domain-specific languages. So an example of a domain-specific language is SQL. So Ajay has created a tool that can build DSLs. He's a PhD student at MIT. And finally, Professor Santosh Nagarkate was visiting Bangalore recently during his sabbatical, and he is a professor at Rutgers. So he spoke about correctly rounded math libraries in the age of AI. So these are some of the talks. This is a picture from one of our talks. This was when Professor Sriram Krishnamurthy visited. So last year we also had a series. So this series is online. It's on our YouTube channel. So we had a 10-part series for outsiders. So typically we only focused on like experts in compilers and people already working in compilers, but this was the first time in like 4 years that we opened up and tried to cater to the general audience. So we spoke about compiler engineer careers, what technologies are used in LLVM, tools like CReduce, Clang tidy, Clang format, about code coverage, using LLDB and GDB, finding bugs with sanitizers and compiler flags. So it was a very interesting experience, and we introduced almost 800 people to compiler technology and systems through this series of talks. And this year we're organizing India's first compiler workshop. So just like the US LLVM meeting or GNU Cauldron or the other like compiler specific meetings like CGO, India didn't have a compiler workshop, even though we have world-class compiler engineers, if I may say so myself. So on this 20th and 29th September, we're organizing a compiler workshop. You can check out compilertech.org if you're interested in that. So that's mainly the first part of my talk, which was about LLVM. But now let's go into what lessons we learned from scaling LLVM Bangalore. And this is obviously my take on this, and you know what I learned. But if you disagree, then we can talk about it. So first tip is identify your audience. So what I'd say is, if you're starting out a niche community or you're in a community, identify who you want the community to be for. A community that is for everybody is not really a community for anybody. What I mean by this is, a lot of communities say that we're open to everyone, beginners, professionals, advanced people alike. In LLVM Bangalore, we knew right from the outset that we want to talk to existing compiler practitioners. We don't make an effort to antagonize beginners as such. Anybody can attend the talks, but most of the talks are fairly advanced and high level. On the other hand, if I was starting a community aimed at beginners, then I'd have a lot more entry level talks. I'd have talks on, how to use Linux, how to use compilers, how to use compiler flags. The problem occurs when people don't know what it entails, signing up. Like, if you are if you're starting a community for beginners, then beginners are going to ask a lot of questions. You can't give them a README or some FAQ and tell them that go read this. If they were good at following FAQs, then they wouldn't be beginners. So if you're starting a community aimed at beginners, you're going to have to repeat yourself a lot. Your talks will not keep increasing in difficulty level as your community advances, and that's fine if that's what you want. But you should know your audience. Who are you catering to? Are they students? Are they professionals? Do they already have some background? And plan accordingly. Then the second point is sustainable consistency. So this is one of the things that I've seen that kills communities really fast, is that they try to do too many things too fast. One week the community starts, and then you have talks, you have lecture, you have meetups, you have workshops, you have paper reading sessions, you have 4 or 5 different things going on together. In LLVM Bangalore, we try to, every time we have a meetup, we do just one talk. Because I feel that after 45 minutes or 50 minutes, people start zoning out. And the main aspect is the community aspect. 1 week from now, you probably won't remember the title of this talk, or you won't remember me. But you'll definitely remember the people you met here. So we try to keep our talks limited. Like, if we have a meetup, we have either one long talk, which is like 45 minutes to an hour, or if we have 20-30 minute talks, we have a couple of them. So, but if you cram in too many talks and too many things, then people either just get bored, or the community bonding aspect of the community, you need to have time before the meetup and after the meetup for people to hang out. If the meetup itself takes 5 hours, then there's not going to be any time to do that. So don't do too many things. And we organize meetups at a monthly cadence because this is what we're comfortable with. Obviously, when we did our compiler workshop series, we did it on a weekly basis, and by the end of 2.5 months, we were really tired making slides, planning talks. So we go on a monthly cadence because that's what we're comfortable with. And variety is the spice of life. So you should occasionally mix things up. You don't have to have a formal meetup where talks are presented. You can just meet each other for lunch instead. You can go hang out. You can do a paper reading session where one person just shares like an interesting paper that they've read. You can do a workshop where people code along with you. Or you can do an invited talk. You can do whatever you want. But keep mixing it up from time to time. That keeps things interesting. And one tip is don't take yourself too seriously. I've seen communities that have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and you can call yourself the Lord Galactic Emperor or whatever you want, but it doesn't really mean anything. You're just an organizer. Don't let it get to your head. Don't worry about over-policing your channels that, if somebody is discussing something unrelated to your topic, conversations naturally drift into unrelated things. So don't over-police the community. Don't set too many rules. Don't worry about that. Just chill, relax. Titles and hierarchy are useless. Like, we feel this strongly because in LLVM Bangalore and even the community that I started in my college, Point Blank, we have only co-organizers. So there's no president or secretary. If you have to take out the trash after the meetup, everyone has to do that. If you need to make a poster, anyone should be able to do that. If you have to do marketing, anyone should be able to do that. You should have generalists in your organizing team that can do anything, right? So don't take yourself too seriously. And continuous feedback from the community. So this seems like a very obvious point, but the thing is, the community generally doesn't tell you immediately when things are going wrong. They're often really quiet. So you have to actively ask. So, there are some really small things like, what time of the day are you most comfortable meeting in? In Bangalore, this is a really big problem, right? So we do meetups on Saturday afternoons. Not in the morning, not in the evening. Bang on in the middle of the afternoon because that's the easiest for people to travel to. If we do online meetups, we can sometimes do them on different times. But you have to ask. If you don't ask for feedback, you will not get it. Beware of who you team up with. In a FOSS context, this is really important because, there are organizations like Google Developer Student Club or Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador or, some other company. So, you might want to promote some tech, but you might be forced to promote some other tech, especially if you are in a tie-up with them, if you're taking money from them. In the recent conference that we are organizing, we got a very generous offer for a sponsorship, but the speaker wanted to give a talk at the conference. That was fine, but the talk did not meet our program committee's standards. The professors and the reviewers said that this talk is not good. So we rejected the sponsorship. So, you might have to compromise with your morals or your ethics or your standards if you team up with the wrong set of people or accept money from the wrong set of people. So please be careful about that. Develop simple workflows for the unimportant stuff. So you might have seen, like I showed you 4 posters of the talks, right? We use the same template. We don't design a brand new poster. We don't have a very complicated website. It's just a meetup page. We don't poll the community for every small thing. So speed up the decision making process. In general, what I'd say is if organizing community meetups takes like more than 5 hours a week, you're wasting too much time. You need to identify the bottlenecks in the process and become more efficient. Make it easy for people to leave when they want to. This is sort of contradictory, but a lot of meetups and all, they work on things like, let's work on learning this technology together, which is good, but the problem is sometimes, people show up for one meetup, then they don't show up for the next meetup, and when they come to the third meetup, they don't know what's happening. So even when we did the compiler lecture series, we made sure to keep the talks discrete, like disconnected from each other. It's kind of like Marvel movies where you can understand the movies without even watching all of them. So make it easy for people to drop in and out. Finally, handle the handoff properly if you're a student community. If you're passing it on to your juniors, then please stick around for a while, help out the juniors. And finally, my last point for today is that it takes time. We took 5 years to get to where we are. There were months where we had 10, 15 people. There were meetups where it was raining outside and we sat with with filled boxes of food because 100 people signed up and only 15 showed up. It takes time. So to conclude, that was my talk. That's the link to our meetup page. If you want to attend any of our upcoming talks, you can. They were also on YouTube, so you can see all our past talks. Finally, my personal account, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can search for Ashutosh Pandey, AMD, you'll find me. I'll be around here also. I'm in a red t-shirt, so it should be easy to find. And you can email me at ashutosh@gnu.org. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
So basically, when building, So basically, when building a community, right, there comes a moment where things start falling apart, right? And then the people that you're working with or you trust on, they start to lose some form of trust, or maybe information is being gatekept. So how do you make sure that people who are basically making the decisions for the community, how do you make sure they don't lose the trust in you?
So in general, I'd say that if you are, as a leader, if you are ever unsure about making a decision, just ask the community. That's the most straightforward thing you can do. And if the community itself, what I feel is that it's a self-correcting mechanism. If the leaders take decisions that don't represent the community, people will just leave. So if your community is growing, if people are getting added, if they're enthusiastic about coming to meets and doing stuff, then you're on the right track. If people are getting disinterested, if things are dying off, then you're probably doing something wrong.
Okay, yeah, thanks.